Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers, too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get some. Awesome. Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up. The Legend of Zelda sold separate.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 30 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for July 29th, 2016. I am your returning podcast host, Josh Kiser, and joining me today, Mr. Josh Haddix.
Oh, it's good to have a legit host back, you know?
And the fill-in of all fill-ins, Kyle Hoagland.
Not sure if fat joke or not, but regardless, what's going on? This is the Dirty 30.
It sure is. 30 episodes. And we're all back for it, you know. So it's nice to be a, full strength here. It's sort of, kind of pseudo speaking, I guess.
You sound like Mort from fucking Family Guy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not by any means 100%. But, I come out here and I try to give it my all for the PNPers today.
Are you stopping into the office tomorrow like you said, or no?
My boss texted me earlier and asked, how I was feeling, and I told him, I'm like, yeah, I was actually thinking about coming in tomorrow. And he goes, no, dude, it's Friday. Like, take the extra day off plus the weekend. I'll see you on Monday. So, no, I'm not going in tomorrow. Nice. Yeah.
Are you, are these all vacation days you've been taking, or did you have to take
it's unpaid? It's unpaid, or it's paid sick leave, basically.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I'm just kind of surprised that you are here, just because I know talking to you on Monday, I believe, it still felt like you were like nowhere near how you are right now.
Well, it's funny is that's basically how it was in all aspects of it. I mean, I felt pain from. Well, not day one. Day one, I think the anesthesia was still in me, so I was kind of just, full strength, or, that fake strength. And then after that, it was just pain for like a solid 8.5 days straight. And then I just, all of a sudden, it kind of went away, and everything has improved. Like, all of a sudden, I can, talk more. I can sleep through the night. That said, things are still swollen. I still have, mucus in the back of my throat, so that's part of the reason why I sound like this. And it's still talking too much. Starts to sound like, basically, it feels like a splinter going through my skull.
So here's the question. Is it as bad as everybody said when you were reading up on it?
If you don't have the right pain medication, it's horrible. If you can keep yourself pretty much drugged the entire time, it's not terrible, but it is by no means. It's just a miserable way of living because you don't eat anything. Yeah. You just feel just shitty. You just can't swallow anything. You eat solid foods now? Trying to. It's a little bit of a battle. Much like talking too much, certain foods when I start to eat or to try to swallow, it's like it almost just like it feels like someone's just like taking the needle and just poking it through my head.
Oh God! So it doesn't sound that bad, really,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
like something he could have easily just battled through and done the podcast last week.
Yeah,
is that what we're saying?
Well, I thought I'd just let everybody know what they were missing out when they don't have a true host on there. So,
well, the tens and tens of our fans appreciate it.
Yeah, just
in the words of mankind, the dozens and dozens of our fans.
Yeah, and all those dozens and dozens, I really appreciate them reaching out to me, wishing me good health and all that stuff on Twitter and Facebook and all that. So thanks again, guys. But coming up in today's podcast, we're going to wrap things up with our month on video games and actually talk about video games. So,
shocker.
Yeah, the rest of the month we sort of talked about general gaming and the different platforms you can do it on. Today we're going to do a group list. I know a lot of times when we do our list, we do individuals, but this time we're kind of doing one combined one. This way I don't have to talk for too much and, let the other guys talk a little bit more.
It's also worth noting, too, that we're all actually in Ohio this week. So that's probably the first of our 32 is of all of us being,
Dude, this is only our 30th podcast, not 32.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Just because you're in Ohio doesn't mean I'm not going to, call you out on your shit.
Just because you're in Ohio and Kiser had his tonsils taken out a week and a half ago,
This is correct, yeah. But you are in town for
I'm in the spare bedroom of my in-laws' house as they're having like a barbecue cookout thing behind me. So if anybody like wanders in here and starts yelling,
they're barbecuing behind you in the spare room. That seems unsafe.
It's very unsafe, extremely.
It's also very late in the evening to have a barbecue going on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we already ate. We ate at 7 o'clock or whatever. It's like for those out there, it's like 9:30 Eastern. But I mean, they're still out there in the dining room drinking and talking and stuff.
So you're being a jabroni right now in the room.
Yeah, I am. When I told my wife that I'm like, well, around 9 o'clock I gotta go in that room and do my podcast. She kind of gave me that look like, people are here, right?
So is there like family members and stuff like who are like there visiting because they're like, hey, our daughter-in-law or son-in-law and our daughter and niece and nephew-in-law, whatever it is, they're all over right now, and you are sitting here recording a podcast with us?
I mean, they call it antisocial. I call it, I gotta get this done. I've got my priorities. God, that's even worse.
And you are literally on record for saying that. Haddix goes on record for a lot of things. You just put yourself that this is your priority.
I'll tell you what, for the things I go on record for, though, they're not like that. All I know was when I was in Emerald Isle last weekend visiting my wife's family, I said, no way am I doing a podcast.
You know what, though? That was your priority. This is his priority.
Exactly. That's true.
Priorities.
That is true.
Hey, I'm here doing both. It wasn't like I didn't come at all. I came here. I had dinner. I hung out for a good 2.5 hours, and then I came in here, do this podcast for an hour, and then I'll go back out there.
And then I'll get on WoW later.
Just do that, yeah.
Probably a good possibility.
Well, speaking of WoW, this week's top list is what the games we are most anticipating, and it's a top 3 list. We each sort of chose a game, in a manner of speaking, and the first one on the list is WoW, in fact. And you might say, wow, that game's been out for, 12 years now? Well, that might be true, but the newest iteration of the expansion, Legion, is coming out next month. You guys could tell me release dates.
August 30th.
So there you go, almost exactly a month away. And as someone who hasn't played in a couple of years, why don't I let you guys sort of take the reins on this one and let me know what you're looking forward to with this expansion. What's getting you guys excited?
Well, I think, and Hoagie can either disagree or agree with me. I think one of the big things, and it happens.
Those are the two options.
Yes, or he could just be neutral and
I will abstain.
Yeah. Hoagie and I and our friend Matt and my cousin Jesse, we tend to basically play WoW, all the time, like throughout the whole expansion till the next expansion, yada, yada, yada. But towards the end of an expansion, it gets really just kind of lackadaisical. There's not much to do. You're kind of just logging on to basically kind of just hang out. You're not really doing much. So when a new expansion is on the horizon, and it's as close as it is, to the one coming out at the end of August, you get very excited just for new content, just to be able to do something new in a game that we've been playing. What now, Hoagie?
It'll be 12 years. It'll be 12 years in November.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the big reasons why you're so excited for it. I mean, I do think there's without getting into too much detail that someone who doesn't play the game would have no idea. There's a lot of cool things that I think they're adding in this expansion. So there's a lot of other things to look forward to.
Well, I mean, you could talk. You might as well go into some of those cool features or something like that. You don't have to get too.
Before we can say that, I feel like the one thing that I think it's cool, and it's also a fault of Blizzard when they do this. The last couple of expansions, I feel like they take way too much time between the last big patch and then they always do like a pre-expansion, kind of like a teaser patch, where they'll bring out a lot of the changes that they make with the classes, little things like that, and then there'll be like some sort of event that kind of introduces the new expansion right before the expansion actually comes out. So that's all well and good, and everyone's really excited about it. But the only reason why people are so excited about it is because of how much time between the last thing we did in the previous expansion up to the pre-expansion patch. It's such a long time. There's such a lull the past I would probably say since Cataclysm, that there's been such a crazy amount of time between the last patch and then the pre-expansion patch. So it naturally gets us all excited just because oh God, there's something else for us to do.
I think it has been over a year since the Hellfire Citadel patch, which was the last raid that was added.
Right.
I think it has been longer than a year since that patch has come out.
And that's always been a thing that they kept on saying the past couple times. They've said, we want to bring out, if it was either, long periods but very, I guess, feature-rich patches versus short bursts of patches, so that way the content's kind of coming at a more steady pace, but it's not a lot. I think a lot of people have said they'd rather have the steady flow of content than us sitting around forever doing nothing, and then it's just a ton to do, and then trying to wrap your heads around doing it. And unfortunately, that's the one thing I think they haven't delivered on. Is that there's just such a huge amount of time between content now. That, like I said, it's been a year.
It was actually June 24th, 2015. So it's been it'll be a year and 2 months basically when the actual expansion comes out, since we had our last major content.
Major content?
That, so, yeah. 14 months that you guys have been paying and haven't had anything new?
Well, I mean, they did come out with... the Tanan Jungle patch was after that, right, Hoagie?
Tanan Jungle patch, as far as I remember, was Hellfire Citadel patch.
Was it the same one?
Yes, it's the same one, because that's where Hellfire Citadel was. It's in the Tanan Jungle.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now, we don't actually raid like the normal one, so they always gate the LFR, which is for people who don't know, that's kind of the social raiding dungeons. And there's 4 or 5 wings, and every other week they would bring out a new wing. Whereas people who are doing normal raiding, technically could go through the whole content on day one if they're doing the regular raiding. But for the 4 of us that play, we're not in any kind of raiding guild. We don't not anymore anyways. Not past couple expansions. So everything that we do is looking for raid content, and they've always, ever since LFR has come out, they'll put in the first wing, and then that first week you do it, the next week you do it again, and then the third week they'll release the second wing. So then you do 2 wings. 2 weeks later they bring up the third wing, so on and so forth. So it's a bit gated, I think, just to kind of extend the shelf life of the raids, which is, it's fine, but it needed more. And I think overall, people will see Warlords of Draenor as, if you were to move the slider towards big success or total failure, I'd probably aim it more towards the failure side. Not saying that the expansion was awful. I just think it was a disappointment. So I think that's another reason why I think people are looking forward to Legion.
So let me ask you this then. What if you get a lot of that same feeling from this expansion?
I mean, I haven't gotten to the point where I'm going to be jumping off a ledge yet about this game. It's still enough where I enjoy it. The things that people are complaining about are not things that I really get too caught up in anymore. If you were to ask 2009 or 2010 me about that, then yeah, I'd probably be really upset because I was still raiding during that time.
Well, what else was 2010 Kyle doing?
Dude, that dude's a homo.
2010 Kyle was, well, maybe it wasn't when did we all start doing Wrath? That was what, 2008? 2009?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, I mean, the expansion right after that, Cataclysm, was the last patch, or the last expansion that I rated all the way up until the end. And as far as actually being in a raiding guild and such like that. And if you were to ask me about it, that really sucked for me because we cleared all the content and now we're sitting on our hands for a year. Then what ends up happening is a lot of people who are in your guild, they start quitting the game, and then they might not be in the mood to renew up because of how that bitter taste was at the end of that expansion. So we lost a lot of people, and that's why we did not raid at all during Mists of Pandaria, the next expansion. So then I end up just fucking playing with you jabronis.
I wish that you wouldn't have.
But, right?
Life would have been a lot better. You know, he could have stayed with his group. You wouldn't have to worry about playing with them.
I had to rekindle friendships I didn't want to rekindle.
You should, back in 2010 Kyle, 2009 Kyle, when you weren't talking and hanging out with them, those were the good days.
Seriously, dude.
And then 2010 Kyle rolled around. So, what about you, Haddix? I mean, if this were you, as I should say, this Hoagie was disappointed. He said, more on the. He said the slider was more towards the failure end of the spectrum. Will you agree with that assessment of this last expansion? And then, if so, if Legion goes the same route, where does that put you?
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree that this expansion will probably be towards the bottom of the list as far as ranking expansions go. But it wasn't horrible. I mean, in the beginning it was really fun. Questing was great. How they did questing in this expansion was great. Khadgar and all that was cool. Like, there was some high points to it. I think, like Hoagie touched on earlier, it was just a lack of content. And when you're paying $15 a month for a game,
especially a game that a ton of people are paying that a subscription for. I mean, it's got to still be the highest subscribed game out there. So it's just at this point they're in such a good spot with that it does seem like they just can take their time, and I don't know, sooner or later people need to, if it keeps going that way, the fans should speak with their wallets at that point, I guess.
I will say this. The one good thing it has going for it that Draenor lacked, because Draenor was where a lot of things mess up, it was a different time zone, like a different time, whatever the hell, time travel. There you go.
It's like Legion, it started introducing multiverse stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So even though it led to the Gul'dan from that time zone or time whatever multiverse coming to ours.
So he was like in the central time zone, and then you guys were like in the eastern time zone?
Yeah, exactly. A couple hours difference, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. How did that work out when you guys were playing with like the Australian players though? I know Hoagie likes to do that. Like they'd have been like way different than Gul'dan.
Dude, they live in the future, so they would have already known.
They already know what's happening with Gul'dan.
They should have warned you guys about that then.
Exactly.
Well, they're assholes over there,
Bunch of sheep fuckers.
Sorry to all our listeners over there, but
that was 2009 Kyle's group, so that makes a lot of sense.
This is true.
But anyway, I think Legion will hit the lore feels that Wrath did. I think there's going to be a lot of good stories, a lot of good lore in the expansion, and that definitely helps things. I think there's some, spoiler alert, there's some deaths that happen, some big deaths that happen. So,
well, I mean, we know Talks and Hoagie's character is going to die multiple times, but that's not really a spoiler.
Well, that will die probably day one of the expansion.
Jesus Christ.
It's actually Toxicity. So, Mr.icity to you guys.
Mr.icity.
That's right. So, I mean, I know, I don't follow what's going on in the lore. I don't follow what's coming on with this expansion. Like, I'm so removed from Warcraft these days that I couldn't tell you. I could probably log in today and have no freaking idea what was going on. But I do know that with this expansion, they're releasing a new class, right? The
Demon Hunters.
Demon Hunter, there we go. Hoagie, that seems like it's right up your alley, because I believe wasn't Demon Hunter sort of like the Diablo class that Fan of Satan originated from?
Well, Fan of Satan originated more he was from the Necromancer side. So it actually probably would be closer to something like a Death Knight. I've always liked a pet class, and I think that was my whole point of it.
I mean, aren't these a pet class?
No, not at all.
Actually. Oh, okay. I guess I assumed Hunter and Demon. It was like
it's more like a roided up. I think it's more like a rogue class.
You're basically Illidan. I mean,
oh, you know what? Maybe I did hear that. Now you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're an Illidari whatever guy.
Are any of you guys interested in that class or playing that class or getting pwned by that class in PvP?
Oh, getting pwned for sure. I think me, Hoagie, and Matt, I mean, we have our main characters.
We're reprising our roles.
Yeah, so it's just with all the time we've put into reputations and achievements and professions, like I can't change my main. Now, plus I really enjoy playing a Shadow Priest. Jesse, the guy who changes his main twice every expansion, is creating a Demon Hunter. He will actually be our tank in the next expansion. So we keep your fingers crossed on that one.
Oh, well, that'd be something.
But I think, I'll probably create a Demon Hunter at some point and, dick around. But
at least play through that initial storyline for it, right?
Yeah, and level them. I think you basically start right around maybe like, what, Hoagie, like 95, 96?
I think it's 95. It's just like the Death Knight hero class. You don't start at 1, you start at 55 for Death Knights. I think it's 95 or something close to that. It's enough to get you to the appropriate level of level 100 to go right into the new content.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I think everyone will probably create one because they do look really cool. I played one in beta for a little while. They are really cool. A lot of cool things. They're probably going to own people in PvP, just like Death Knights did. Actually, Death Knights still kind of do, but it's a hero class. So what do you expect?
Right. If you're Hoagie, a nice hero sandwich, right?
I'm not even gonna say anything. Yeah, you can do better than that. Not even gonna entertain you.
You always entertain me, Kyle. Okay, so we kind of wrap things up here with World of Warcraft Legion. I'll give you guys each maybe a minute or so. Last thoughts on it. Is there anything in particular you're really anticipating, nervous about, dreading? About the upcoming expansion.
Well, I have to be excited about the artifact weapon. So this next expansion, there's really no such thing as having like a weapon drop anymore. Once you finished or started your artifact weapon quest and you get your weapon, then the whole point of the game is you level up and put I guess it's called like artifact points or artifact power on your weapon to kind of level up your weapon as you go. So there's no such thing as like, the staff that drops in this raid, is it going to be better than my like dagger offhand? No, you already have your weapon, so then everything else is what drops. Now the thing that sucks about that is that right now in the pre-expansion patch, where we pretty much already have all of our brand new talents and stuff, I believe a lot of that is scaled towards your artifact weapon. So I think a lot of people have been complaining that we've been kind of playing a little underpowered in this pre-expansion patch. We've been running a couple of 5-mans and stuff like that, and we just feel like we're just getting our shit kicked in because I feel like we're missing a bit of our strength, and that's because we don't have our artifact weapon yet.
I will say somebody, and that would be me, is still pumping out some hot deeps, Kiser. So don't worry about that. Okay.
I never doubted you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
But Haddix, how about you? Anything else that you
I think, like I said earlier, I think the lore is going to be cool. New content, really. And again, I'm very excited. Maybe that's because it's been so long since we've had content, so maybe I'm a little biased towards it, but I'm just looking forward to doing something new. Is really what it boils down to.
All right. That'll kind of wrap things up for Legion. The next game on our list, believe it or not, you guys were talking about how long it takes in between patches. This game might be the longest time it's ever come for a game to ever be released from its original production, and that is Final Fantasy 15, which, if you ask certain people over the past couple of years, they would have thought at some point this game was just going to come out and get scrapped. When did World of Warcraft was created or released in 2004, right? Final Fantasy 15, excuse me, originally was supposed to be Final Fantasy 13 versus 13, which was going to be like a one-off game from Final Fantasy 13 for the PlayStation 3. This was announced in 2006. 10 years this game has been in development, and at some point, I think it was around 2012, they decided, you know what, it's not going to come out as Final Fantasy 13. We're going to release it as Final Fantasy 15 as our next main iteration of the game. Obviously, Final Fantasy 14 being an online game that they created. So this game has been in development for a very long time, and this is sort of the one that I put on the list because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. Been a fan really since Final Fantasy VII and the PlayStation 1. And for me,
what did Final Fantasy VII do for you?
It literally changed my life. A pickup line that works at the bars very often with the ladies, let me tell you. But, you know, unlike the, you know, Warcraft where you guys are playing it all the time, this is not a game where it's coming off of a previous iteration, or I'm waiting for new changes to be made from the last one. Like, it has nothing. The Final Fantasies have nothing to do with the previous Final Fantasies. Final Fantasy 14 has nothing to do with 15, nor do either of them have anything to do with 13 and 12 and so on. So they're all set in different worlds, different times. So there's not anything I'm, anticipating like, oh, I hope they make this change or this change. For me, this game is, Square's been criticized for Final Fantasy 13. They were criticized they've been criticized a lot for Square Enix, the creators of this series and other series of RPG
I feel like
games.
12. I feel like even 12 was kind of panned a bit.
12 is one of those that's, I think it got crapped on at the time, and now certain people are coming around to it, and it's almost got a better cult following to it.
I thought 13 was good too, actually.
So on a personal level, I do too. The first 13 was okay. I actually enjoyed the sort of expansions they made for them, which I know got really blasted. At least 13-2 I thought was pretty good. But in general, the games, they've gotten a lot of criticism. So this, especially with the long development cycle it's been in, this game has to be a home run for Square. This is, I don't want to say they're putting all their eggs in their basket because they're going to do fine. They're releasing an HD re-released new version of Final Fantasy VII, which is going to just make bank for them. So it's not like they're going to go under if this game fails, but it's definitely, people, you hope it does well, and a lot of early criticisms of the, they released betas and things like that of the gameplay. There's some criticisms on it. But for me, it's the next generation of Final Fantasy game, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes because I just need to take a breather here. But why don't you give me what you guys like about Final Fantasy series in general, or anything you might be anticipating with this?
Well, I was going to say on that topic that you were saying real quick, I wonder if these games get such criticism because, 7... 8, 9, they were such good games that, I feel like everyone's expectations are so high. I mean, especially 7. I mean, 7's arguably one of the best games ever.
Well, I mean, don't forget about 10. I think 7 through 10 have been like the golden age of Final Fantasy.
So, like, I wonder if that's why these games get shit on so bad, is because, I mean, your expectations are so high that if it comes out and it's just, it's a decent game, everyone's upset because it's not awesome, or like,
I think the problem they have, which is the exact opposite of like an MMO, like WoW, is that it's WoW is a continuation of itself. So it's kind of like you take what worked and improve on it. Things that didn't work, you scrap. And you move forward, you move on. So it's like that's the excuse of like an MMO's path as far as improving their game. Final Fantasy is reinventing itself every single time, probably ever since 7, because I feel like a lot of the games from 1 through 6 were very similar. You got your turn-based, your job classes, and then some things they might have introduced a little differently. But I feel like, especially after maybe 9 or 10, they've really been trying to almost reinvent the wheel, and there's only so much, I guess, innovation you can make, and I feel like they've never been the kind of company that says, "All right, let's find a style that works for us, and then let's just improve the graphics, maybe add a couple things here and there, but keep what works and move it forward." Like, to me, I've always been a big fan of timed turn-based. That's why I've always liked 7, 8, and 9, and I think 10 as well, were all turn-based, but it was timed, where things still happen in real time, but then you can't do anything until it's like your turn to attack. I think from what I've seen as far as gameplay in 15, it looks very much more open adventure, or in a sense where maybe it feels more like, I think 12 did it like that, where it was kind of like a 360 kind of battle plane area where you can kind of like get behind mobs, or you can, it's a little bit.
It wasn't random encounters,
right? Exactly. So that's what I think has changed, and I think when they started doing that, you're going to get some people that like it, some people that don't. And I think 15 is not. As far as I'm concerned, I don't remember if it's random encounter or not so much.
No, I feel like it's going to be much more sort of like Kingdom Hearts style, where it's.
That's what I was thinking, like Kingdom Hearts and almost like Kingdom Hearts and Zelda. That's what I've seen so far. It's like, it's very.
And I think there's going to be like tactical at times where you're going to like kind of walk up to a thing and you assess like, oh, here's the enemies right now. Like, how am I going to approach this fight? And there's going to be like different levels. It's a very interactive battle system. It's almost like a Zelda meets like an Arkham Knight sort of thing, but an RPG Kingdom Hearts element to it.
Right, but do you think that when you do something like that, where it's like, well, a lot of people really kind of like the not Wild Arms. I mean, I'm thinking of Wild Arms, but like Final Fantasy Tactics meets old school Final Fantasy meets Kingdom Hearts Zelda. It's like does that feel like that's too much? Like they're innovating by almost taking all the things that worked in all these other different, I guess, genre of RPG games, and then trying to like mush it together like it's Play-Doh and try to make something new out of it. I
mean, that's what Square does. They, to their credit, they're never afraid of trying something new and completely different. And I think a lot of their ways, that's their goal. They don't want, if they want to make another turn-based RPG, or they want to make a clone of another game, then they'll do that for the mobile, or they'll do that as a one-off thing. This is their granddaddy, baby of them all title franchise right here.
This is their flagship titles.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the one they want every iteration of it to be completely different, to be completely new, to be, as, Nintendo does with their Zeldas and their Marios. They want this to be the standard bearer for all other RPGs to look on. Like, that is the type of RPG. And it shows in, graphics, the Final Fantasy graphics. If you want to know how well a system can look, how pretty a system can look no further till the first Final Fantasy comes out for that system, because they're going to push the graphics to its limit. and make a beautiful game, as well as they're going to have cinematic cutscenes for it that are just going to look, movie quality.
Yeah, I said that they've never been. They've never, I guess, held back on immersion as far as that game is concerned, especially since 10. Everything's always been eye candy when it comes to any Square Enix game, but especially Final Fantasies.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other Square Enix games go for, like, the Dragon Warrior series go more for, like, or Dragon Quest go more for, like, a cartoon feel and things like that. They still look nice, but Final Fantasy is the one that, like, we want this to look as realistic as we can make a game look in a fantasy world, and just, to your point, just immerse you into a story and this world that, like, is as creative and sometimes out there as it can get.
Well, as a guy that now finally has a PlayStation, like I said, Final Fantasies have always kind of eluded me, unless I played them at your, like for RPG-a-thon or something like that. Like I've played 7, I've played 8, I've played a little bit of 9. Other than that,
you played Crystal Chronicles, have you?
Well, that's also a kind of a completely different game. That's not flagship Final Fantasy. But yes, I have played those. But that was
that's like saying Dr. Mario is part of the main Mario franchise.
It is.
Or like Luigi's Mansion is part of like the Mario franchise. But now that I actually have a PlayStation 4, I am looking forward to actually playing 15. It is cool that I didn't have to feel like I had to play the other games to feel like I can at least play 15 and enjoy it. And I've always loved Final Fantasy. It's just I've just never had a console that would let me actually own a game and play it. Actually, I had 7 and 8 for PC when it came out for that.
Yeah, I remember you doing cheats and downloading this thing so you were level 99 when you started the game out.
Oh, jeez. Classic Ogie.
Casting Knights of the Round on that first like Robo Scorpion boss.
Joke's on you because that's a 15-minute cast. So
that's true. I probably would have beat it faster if I just did it on my own.
Like a regular attack, since you were level 99?
Like regular attack like 8 times, and that would have been all I needed to do.
Or once, because it probably had 500 health, and you could swing for 9999.
Yeah, but what's the fun in that? You just, you might as well, if you're going to go overkill, just do it. Might as well summon all the knights and just watch 15 minutes of polygonal sword swinging.
So, I'm actually currently watching an eBay bid for PlayStation 4 in anticipation of maybe buying it, knowing that this game is coming out on September 30th.
What's the bid at right now?
It's not a bid, it's just to buy it now for $280 for a PlayStation 4.
In the box?
Oh, it's brand new. Yeah, there's already been, let's see, it was 590 when we started the podcast. It is 626 have been sold now.
Jesus Christ, how many does this guy have?
It says limited.
Oh, God. you're going to be like, I'm going to buy it, and you click it, and he'll be like, oh, I'm sold out, sorry.
Yeah, that'll be my luck, too. But it's I don't know if I've seen it this cheap. Well,
I think when Matt and I bought ours on Jet, I think it was about $250.
Yeah, that was literally the cheapest I've ever seen it, and it hasn't come close to that since. So we'll see. We'll see, PM Pierce. We'll see about it. One thing that I'm interested in with this game is Final Fantasy has always had beautiful music. Nobuo Uematsu is a phenomenal composer, has done a great job with the music, has made some iconic music that I could listen to studying, I could listen to it in the car. It's very good classical
the ladies love it
composed music.
When he picks them up in his car.
That's right. I mean, literally, the panties fall off as soon as they get in. They're like, "Oh my God, is that from Final Fantasy VII?"
After they're half off after you tell them how Final Fantasy VII changed your life, and then you pop the old CD in, and
boom,
yeah,
it's on the floor.
Game over, ladies and gentlemen.
That said, Nobuo Uematsu and Square Enix separated ways a couple of years back. And I mean, he still does work for him from time to time. He's actually not doing any music for this game. It is all done, or the leading composer anyways, is Yoko Shimomura. You guys might be familiar with some of her work. I looked through the list of it, what she's done in the past, and the major titles that she's done it looks like she's been a part of all the Kingdom Hearts series. So as long as it's not counting that pop song that's on Kingdom Hearts, it's a decent soundtrack. Outside of that, she did do Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, though, Kyle. So that's something.
That's how I recognize her.
Right. She also
there's never. I don't think there's ever really been a bad soundtrack for any of the Final Fantasies. I mean, even what was that game that we played on the Wii that was done by Numatsu?
On the Wii?
Yeah, remember there was 2 games. Not Chronicles. What was the other game that we bought?
Are you talking about the GameCube?
No. For the Wii, remember we had Xenoblade Chronicles, and then there was another game that you and I both got.
I got Pandora's Tower and Last Story.
Story. Last Story was composed by him, and that was actually a pretty good soundtrack as well. So I feel like I never really worry too much about the music. I always feel like it's always going to be catchy and fun to listen to. I'm just scared that. So far, the 15 beta or the test that you can get for Final, I played it on the PlayStation 4. It's okay, but it just seems like I'm definitely hoping there's way more. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's fair. It'll be interesting. I'm very curious. I'm excited for the game. I hope it doesn't suck. I'm really pulling for Square Enix. And then one other small note before we move on to the last thing. Is they actually, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, the Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive.
With the movie or something?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they actually, this is a big surprise, is they're releasing a CGI feature film. I believe it's a prequel, it runs parallel with the events of 15. Completely CGI'd, looks amazing.
So do you watch it before you play, or...?
I think you can watch it before, you can watch it after. I don't think either it matters. You can watch it while you're playing.
Okay.
Isn't actually they have a film, a CGI film, and then they also have a animation, like an internet animation series too, right?
Yeah, they may have one of those too. But this
Kingsglaive is the CGI film, and then Brotherhood is the series.
Okay. The big thing about Kingsglaive though, 3 of the voice actors, Sean Bean, Lena Headey, however you pronounce her name, and then Aaron Paul, actually. So that's a pretty legit cast right there.
It is.
And Sean Bean, whoever he's playing, his character is going to die. So
I was about to say fucking Boromir, Rip Ned.
I think that we thought that would be the main guy in that show for all these seasons.
Spoiler alert on that. Sorry.
Yeah, there you
go. Don't get too attached to him.
if you're just starting Game of Thrones, don't get attached. Nice, Haddix. But as we move away from Final Fantasy, we'll go to another game that's been in development for a little bit of time, and this one is near and dear to Hoagie's heart, and that is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, or Breath of Wild.
Breath of the Wild. It sounds like a magic card or the name of very expensive dog food. No? Nothing? Okay.
I'll give you the magic card. I'll give you the
magic card as well. It also sounds like a book.
The dog food that I give my dog is called Taste of the Wild, which also probably sounds like a magic to get, like pay 4 green and a colorless.
It's also in a buff in World of Warcraft, right? Very close to it.
It's Mark of the Wild.
I understand that.
They removed all buffs, basically.
Even Bagwell?
No, he's still in it. Marcus is still in the game.
But why don't you talk about Breath of the Wild, which is a fantastically terrible name.
Well, I hope the game is much better than the name. It's, from what I've been told so far, it's 12 times the size of Twilight Princess, which I believe is the current biggest map of any of the Legend of Zelda games. So we're talking largest scale game times 12. So you got that going for you. Speaking of how long they've been developing this game, or how long it's been since we've last had a Zelda game, I believe it was November 2011 was when they released Skyward Sword. They never really made it. That was for the Wii. They really didn't make a Wii U Zelda. So they're making this game be. I think it's going to come out for the new NX system, and then I think they're going to port it also to the Wii U. But yeah, I think that they're saying that's going to come out March of 2017, and it definitely has a lot of survival. I guess I don't know how to really explain it. It reminds me a lot of Skyrim, and it's like Skyrim meets Zelda, where you are kind of upgrading your gear as you go. It's not linear like every other Zelda, where you go to Dungeon 1 to get an item, and then that's how you get to use that item to open up new parts of the map to get to Dungeon 2. From what I've been told and what I've read so far, you could actually beat the whole game at the very beginning, as long as you have some rupees.
So it's like Myst?
Huh?
It's like Myst that way.
Wait. Myst the puzzle game?
Yeah. You could beat it right in the beginning.
How? I thought you needed like certain colored tiles.
No, like if you knew if you could crack like one password or something like that, you could like get right to the end of the game and beat it.
Oh yeah, I guess if you knew I guess I think the whole point is you're supposed to do all these puzzles to like get the passcode, which then at the very end is what you need to beat the game. I mean, if you already know the passcode at the beginning, I guess.
Well, this is coming from the guy that downloaded cheats for Final Fantasy VII for the PC, yeah. So I didn't know this was above you, Mr. Morality.
Here's my rule. Here's my rule about cheat codes. Once you've beaten the game, then if you want to play the second time and you want to play like your god, do it. Who cares? At least that's my opinion on it. Anyways.
But, when I played World of Warcraft, I basically was a god, so I mean, I can understand how you want that feeling.
Jesus Christ. This is coming from the guy who hasn't played in like 6 years.
It's just not hard enough for him, that's why.
That's right. There's no challenge for him. But as far as this game's concerned, I think it's already being kind of touted as probably going to be the best Zelda in history, which is that's a tough it's a tough thing to say, just because for the overall, all the Zelda games have been critically acclaimed. So if we're talking about having something that's going to be that much better than any of those games, that's going to be it's got to be an awesome game if that's what people are leaning towards when they're teasing it.
I've actually probably only played one, maybe two Zeldas in my day. But I will say and this kind of goes back to when we were doing our E3 podcast, watching some gameplay of it and reading some things about it. It did seem really cool. It seemed very open-ended, like you were saying, Hoagie. Just kind of you can do whatever you want. You might beat the game very different than, I guess not beat the game, because I'm assuming the last guy is the last guy no matter what. But how you got there could be very different than how I got there. You know what I mean? So I'm
still trying to figure out whether or not if you beat the last boss, is the game actually over? From a lot of people have seen they saying that even if you go and beat the final guy, you can still continue your adventure, which that's what I'm trying to understand. Like they've already said the last boss is Ganon, some form of Ganon. It usually always is, but they said that you can go right to what we considered like level 8, which I think is like the last boss. But I think if you beat him, I'm pretty sure you can just keep going, from what I've understood. I don't know. I don't know if the credits hit after you beat him, or if there truly is okay, do you end your adventure here, or can you kill Ganon and then go back? That's what I'm more interested in. Is it so non-linear that you can actually kill the final boss, but then continue adventuring, getting new items, and beating these other dungeons at your leisure?
Right. I mean, that's interesting, and I'm gonna guess, you'll start out with 3 heart containers, so you'd have to be pretty damn good to beat Ganon, right at the beginning? Because I'm assuming as you go on and you kill these other bosses, you get more heart containers and you increase your life total to take, more abuse. So you might be able to kill Ganon right at the beginning, but it might not be. You might have to be like really freaking good.
Yeah, that might be how people challenge themselves in the game. Because I'm sure if you did it the linear way, as you slowly progress, then you're at least at the appropriate power to beat Ganon. And then, but if you went ahead and said, "No, I'm gonna skip that and go all the way," you're basically going in shirtless with like a stick to fight Ganon, and seeing if you can actually pull it off. But what seems the difference is like you no longer like need an item particularly. The Zelda games have always been classic with like you go into a dungeon and then the main item there is a hammer, and then that hammer you actually would use in some way, shape, or form to beat the boss that's in that dungeon because it's got like a some crazy armor,
like a giant nail on the top of its head, and you need to like hammer that nail down into him to kill him.
Right, exactly. Or like you get bombs in another one, and then like it's always like the classic like boss that like every once in a while will open its mouth. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna throw a bomb in its mouth, But I guess in this case, that's not the case. Like there are different ways.
As somebody who just had mouth surgery, I don't like the idea of you throwing a bomb into somebody else's mouth.
Yeah, come on, dude. Very insensitive.
That is very insensitive.
So what can I use then? Okay, let's say.
Maybe you throw like an ice cream cone in there. You pat him on the back. You say, "Nice job, bro."
The boss's like sphincter like will open up every once in a while, and you just stuff a bomb in his butthole. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, that would be more on your expertise is on your butt surgery that you've had. So you tell me if that's insensitive or not.
I had butt surgery?
I don't know. You didn't deny it, so.
Open?
We're airing all of our dirty laundry out here tonight. Jesus Christ. Anyways,
all I want to know is like picture Hoagie's in-laws sitting in the other room, hearing him say, "I had butt surgery."
I didn't even think about that. They're probably all just hanging right outside the door with their ear against the door.
Oh, so they're all having a good time with family and friends. You know what I mean? They're not locked in a room doing a podcast. So.
And you know what? They'll understand when they all listen to this podcast. They'll be like, you know what? Well done, everybody. Especially, I really love that 90-second awkward pause.
It's what we do best here.
Exactly.
Riveting stuff.
So, Kyle, what is it that you're, we kind of cut you off here. We got a few minutes left here before we got to wrap up the show. What is it about the Zelda that's going to stand out for you? What is it that, other than just being completely different, maybe, they like to try new things, much like Square does. What is it for you that you're worried about, and what is it that you're most excited about?
Well, I'm mainly excited about just the survival implementations. Before you kind of walked around wearing your green garb, and you had like a sword and a shield. In this game, you basically craft everything you have in order to fight. You can technically not wear clothes at all. You basically just run around in your underwear. But there are parts where that are colder. You can go up in the mountains that you have to wear clothes because you physically will die of hypothermia. You will lose hearts if you don't wear the appropriate clothing for where you are. You do your own cooking. It just seems like a much more survival Zelda than I think people are used to.
Because you're out in the Breath of the Wild, dude.
The what?
You're in the Breath of the Wild. You gotta survive.
Absolutely. You're basically like Mountain Man Link, just like living off the land, and then hopefully you find a way to save the world. I guess the story takes place where Ganon takes over Hyrule for over 100 years, and then Link never showed up, or like this generation's Link shows up 100 years later. Instead of like fighting it as it's happening, which is usually how it happens. Link's usually there to stop Ganon from taking over. In this case, he has taken over and has for over 100 years. And then the prophecy happens where Link shows up. So better late than never, I guess. But then to make it worse is oh, hey, Ganon's been ruling this for over 100 years. We need to hurry you to go and fight him. Instead, it's like, well, we're just going to throw you out in the middle of the wilderness. At some way, you'll get the strength to fight Ganon.
Dude, you got to get the eye of the tiger.
It is the thrill of the fight.
No, okay. I thought maybe Haddix would chime in there.
No, Haddix.
I know the next line, but I was like, I'm not going to participate in this.
I really wanted you
nonsense.
to think you knew it and then screw it up. That's what I was.
Just absolute nonsense, dude. All right.
That's what we bring to the table here. Is absolute nonsense.
That's what we bring to the podcast, sponsored by Billy's Mart,
where you can purchase all of these games.
Pulling the plug.
So that's about our show for us. Haddix, I don't think you had anything else you wanted to add to the Zelda discussion,
really. No,
did you?
I don't really play them much, so.
Have you played any of them?
Like the, what was I think there was the one for the GameCube.
Wind Waker?
Wind Waker?
Yeah, Tony,
probably
college.
possibly the best one.
In college, I lived with Tony, and he was a big Zelda fan, so me and him would play it from time to time.
Good old Legend of Zelda Tony.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's our list this week. We managed to spend an hour talking about 3 upcoming video games. So PMPers, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, and Facebook, all that. Let us know what games you're anticipating that are coming out. Which ones you might be getting, which ones you're staying far away from. And as for next week, we're going to get off of video games and we're going to do our mid-season baseball review. The All-Star game happened a couple weeks back, so we're a little behind on that. We're going to catch up, see where our predictions are looking, where we kind of see the rest of the season heading. Again, don't forget, go to pseudonerdpod.com for all of our social media handles. Check out our blog post to do all that. Meanwhile, I'm going to try and rest up this throat. Hoagie, go back and visit with the family. Haddix, do whatever it is that you do. And from Cuyahoga County to Lorain County, because we're all in Northeast Ohio this week, I am Josh Kiser, he is Josh Haddix, and he is Kyle Hoagland, and we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
See ya.